Perfect. Okay, well, like I said, I'm very happy that you guys are here. I see a lot of familiar faces. And this webinar is actually going to be about brand audits. And I'm just going to share my screen quickly here. So brand audits, and I want to explain to you guys what a brand audit is, how we build a brand audit, and why we do it. And what you'll see here is an example of a brand audit that we did for our brand, Anstice, which actually has been really, really helpful to kind of visualize what's ahead of us, where we want to take the brand, where we want to be consistent with, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll just jump into it. So what is a brand audit? Basically, it is a document that's ever growing, and it's an ever-growing landscape of your brand history and evolution. So it is a document, I call it an organic document, that's always going to be growing. The more you develop your brand, the more you do for your brand, this document will grow with it, basically. And how do we do this? Is we actually collect the assets that has ever formed your brand. So it's basically, we go back in time and we collect all the assets that contributed with the formation of your brand, and we organize them chronologically. And the beauty of this is we can actually see the thread throughout your brand, the history of it, how it started, where it's now, where it was, and we see that evolution and that behavior of your assets, of your messaging. And it's a really nice tool for you to have full sight of your brand. And then my favorite part is why we do this. So to me, as a designer, consistency is key. We want to make sure that every single asset that you put out there, it's consistent, and there's no interruption, either visually or from a messaging standpoint. But then also we want to determine what are those assets that make your brand distinct. So, you know, we live in a very saturated market, and we want to make sure we stand out. So we need to kind of diagnose what are those assets that we want to actually put effort behind it, and that actually represent the values of your brand. And then once you actually identify those assets, you can commit to these. Basically, you can say, okay, these are the assets that are different from my competitors in the market, and that are actually making my audience feel something, that feeling that you want the audience to identify you with. And we want to commit to these. So to me, those are three factors that are really, really important. And I think this tool that we're going to present to you, Brand Audit, is essential for every brand, in my opinion, because, you know, this will give you the ability to zoom in and zoom out from that landscape that we just talked about. So let's just jump into it, basically. So Anstice Brand Audit. So like I said, the whole exercise was basically collecting assets, even from the beginning, the farthest you can go when you actually started your brand. So for Anstice, I was actually able to go back to 2013. And one thing that I did notice was that between 2013 and 2016 was the brand was starting, the brand was evolving, but it kept itself kind of consistent. So that's why I segmented the audit this way. So we can see here that we of course had a website. We were actually in 2013, mobile websites were actually starting. And but in this case, we just had a desktop. That's what I noticed. And we can see first our full logo, Anstice Communications. We can see the use of color. Our main color was this magenta color, which I like to call sangria, and it's one of my favorite colors. And we can see how confident we were with the use of the color, which is great. Then from the messaging standpoint, we actually we can identify the fact that we weren't really being straightforward to what Anstice did, except for, you know, the communications underneath the logo. So then when you scroll down, that's when you actually got the information. So we're not a traditional communication agency. So that's a very important keyword that was kind of hidden below fold. But again, from a visual standpoint, you know, we were pretty bold with the colors, which is good. This is our full logo. So Anstice Communications, more of a, I would say, I consider it more of a word mark rather than a logo. But, and then we kind of paired it with this typography here, which to me, this was actually before I started working at Anstice. So to me, this whole process was fascinating, just to learn about the brand previously to my time. So this is a font. It's actually called Source Sans Pro. I find it a bit too generic, honestly. Like if I see, and I'm sure if there's any designers here in this call, I'm pretty sure it's hard to kind of identify what this font is like. And again, we want those assets to be distinctive enough to say, whenever you see it, you think of Anstice or you think of your brand. I think we're doing a really good job here with the color. With the font, I'm not a fan of the font, but I mean, we'll see the process of it. Then we jumped into social, which is one of my favorite, let's see, channels. And I went down that feed, and I realized that we were actually sharing a lot of our culture in the agency, which is amazing. And we've actually found a lot of engagement whenever we post anything behind the scenes from Anstice, which is great. One thing that I noticed is that some of the posts weren't really, if you actually isolate some of those posts, they weren't really screaming Anstice, or they weren't actually communicating that this is content from Anstice. So it's, again, it's the beauty of this whole exercise, and it's something that we need to, you know, keep in mind. Obviously, the content that we create, we want it to represent us, and ideally create our own content, which is, you know, you will see further ahead. Iconography, pretty straightforward, just clean iconography. We're again using our colors. We jump into the Christmas card for, I believe this was for 2016. Yes, 2016. It's Screw 2016. Just kidding. It was great because we had you. So we can actually start seeing that personality come through. So from a messaging standpoint, I feel like we were finding ourselves, like we were finding our voice, our brand voice. Visually, I would say maybe the typography wasn't completely consistent. Again, beauty of this whole exercise. The color was literally screaming Anstice, which I love. When we go into proposals or presentation decks, everyone that has actually worked with me, they know how important the presentations are to me, because I actually feel that the presentations is basically the relationship with your client. This is what they will see, and this is what basically putting all our efforts, all our communication terms into this deck, and they will probably reshare it when we're not there to support them. So to me, presentations are super, super important from a content standpoint, but also from a visual perspective. And we started to see here, you know, we are using stock imagery, but we start seeing a bit of a personality coming through as well with the selection of the imagery. To me, it's a bit content heavy on the heavier side of content, but we kind of start seeing that again, that brand voice, finding ourselves. Like we started finding that voice. And this is something that a lot of brands, they need to do. You kind of like have to go deeper and deeper just to find who you really are, who's how you're going to represent those values. So that's basically what we're trying to do here. So now we jump into 2017, and we jump into the website refresh. So it wasn't a complete redesign, but it was more of a refresh. And I would have to say I have exactly the same comments about the content. So this to me is the meat of the site. And I think if I was in that time, I would maybe just have suggested, let's move that up. Let's give our users less, give them fewer steps to actually understand who we are and what we do. For imagery, I think we kind of simplified it. You know, we're just using one image here, and we are starting to see the color used more as an accent color rather than, you know, being so bold with it. And then if we move further ahead in 2017, there's still some stock imagery here, but I think we're kind of limiting ourselves here with the color palette. So now we kind of went more towards a monochromatic style, black and white, probably just to make that magenta highlight, just basically highlight that color a bit more, make it pop against that black and white imagery. So that could have been the reason behind that decision. For business cards, pretty straightforward. Although something that I thought interesting here was this was the first time we actually isolated our A, which to me, when I jumped into Anstice, to me was interesting. Like, that, does that mean we had brand recognition out there in the market? Can we actually isolate it and eventually use it without the full logo? So to me, that was, I know it's just a business card, very simple, but to me, that was a hint of evolution. Talking again about proposals or presentation decks, you can start seeing how we actually evolve the imagery. So again, black and white, we're playing with negative space, which is good. Still a bit heavy on content in some of them don't. We're kind of cleaning it up and kind of streamlining the content and highlighting some of the keywords or key phrases. For social, basically the same. We started, we kept pretty consistent with our culture, which is amazing. I think we started actually sharing more of our client work and featuring our clients. So to me, that's a good collaboration hint as well that we started doing. From a design standpoint, I would have liked to see more of those distinctive assets coming through. Again, one of our main assets is our color. So, you know, you only get just a few hints here and there throughout, but we were so bold at the beginning with it, at the beginning of it. So why not actually be bold here? And again, let's make sure that that color represents us and that we're just putting it out there so people know that's our content. And funny thing, here's actually when I started working at Anstice, and I added this one here because it actually brings me really, really good memories. This was kind of like a team building exercise or team building activity that we did. It's super, super fun. Usually, you know, a lot of companies, they do lunch, dinner, cooking classes, which is super fun as well. But in this case, we decided to do a photo shoot. And it was an amazing time to actually reconnect with the team and kind of break the ice. And at the end of it, we got really, really great assets, which we actually used for our Christmas card. So this was actually the photo that we used for our Christmas card. So super fun. We got really great feedback from it. By the way, if you guys have any questions, you can always write it down. Oh, actually, we do have questions. A second, try. Oh, nope, never mind. but you do have that ability and that functionality. If you want to ask a question, go onto the Q&A tab and then write a question. I'll be paying attention to those. Because as you can see, I talk a lot and I can talk forever. So especially if it comes with about brands. So now we jump into 2018. And to me, this is a pretty cool jump that we did. We decided to redesign our website, which was a super fun exercise. And we actually changed our color as well. And just as a background, one of the reasons why we actually changed basically the shade of our pink, it was because our office, they have pink floors and we wanted that pink to be consistent. You'll see an image of our office further ahead if you haven't actually visit the offices. So we made that decision. We thought it was more of a unique color for us, and again, consistency with our space. So we changed the color of our logo, of our brand. Basically, we wanted to keep that magenta, kind of that hot pink, but more into the imagery rather than the graphics of the brand. You can also start seeing here how we actually started using metaphors in our imagery, which I love. I'm a very conceptual person. And people actually started asking, why jellyfish? Like, why do you have, once you land in our website, why do you have a jellyfish there? People thought it was a bit random. But one of the reasons why we actually chose this type of imagery, in this case was an actual video, was because we found that jellyfishes were a good representation of what we did. So jellyfish, they actually have tentacles and they feed themselves. They grab the food with the tentacles and feed themselves with them. So we thought that was a good representation of us, our client, and the audience. So basically, we do have tentacles, and we tried to get insights from the audience, and we tried to feed our clients with them. So anyway, just a bit of a background there with this random. You'll see more random imagery after, but that to me, it's a big leap into our brand. We started being a bit more metaphorical about our visuals. Also moving on staying on the website, you can actually start seeing a lot of simplicity around it. You know, we're starting to be a bit way more confident actually with our negative space. Something that I always say as a designer, I do not see white space, I see air. And that's, you know, a lot of people, they tend to fill in those spaces and that air, but you do need air. Design needs air to help the user or the reader to digest the information. So to me, negative space, air, white space, however you want to call it, it's actually kind of easing that legibility and the process of understanding and digesting all that content that we're putting out there. So to me, again, a big step here. I know I tend to actually exaggerate the air around it, but I'm glad I got the liberty of it. And, you know, again, kind of going towards more of a simplistic look and feel. Of course, at this time, 2018, we kept in mind our mobile sites. Nowadays, every single website should be responsive. We actually get more than 60% of our traffic comes from mobile. So this was a must for us, and really for every single brand out there. You need to consider every single devices that people can actually view your website. We also, and you'll notice, I'm pretty happy about this change here. We changed the typography. I'm sure you noticed I didn't like Source Sans Pro, too generic for me. We went more towards a clean, geometric font typeface, basically, that I think contributes with more of a modern look. So that's that. It's called Gotham. The font, if you actually ever want to look for it, I'm obsessed with it. I just love how clean it is. We continue with stock imagery for several reasons: time, budget, etc. But you can now actually start seeing that we're being selective, very selective of what imagery we actually put out there. So again, stock imagery is not ideal, but you always run the risk of actually having a direct competitor using it, or anyone in the market really repeating that asset for you. And again, we want to be as distinctive as possible. But at least here you can see that evolution of attitude, and we are incorporating that attitude, that edginess into the imagery that we selected. We also started creating our own visuals. So this was actually, this is social posts, and this is actually just a section of our website that we basically just repurposed as a social post. I'm a big believer of repurposing assets, recycling, and so you can see that here, but it's ours. You know, it's using our font, it's using our colors, it's using our selected photography. We're editing it, etc., and giving it that personality. Another thing here is we actually started using our A bit more as well. You know, we started realizing that people were actually recognizing the brand by just seeing our A, our distinctive shape of an A, which is quite particular. And then, of course, more asset selection. Content creation. Funny thing is, I wanted to add this one here because this is the reason why we have this exercise. To me, this is a bit of an interruption, and that's why I wanted to kept it here. Yes, we are using our colors, but the typography doesn't really match. The icon, I think it's a bit too cutesy for the personality that we're trying to discover and unveil. So to me, this is a bit of an interruption, not just visually, but also the voice itself. So wanted to keep it there, again, to keep an eye on that consistency. And ultimately, we want to make sure that the content that we create represents us and that it's on brand, basically. So another thing that I love is the things and drinks, which is funny. We used to do these prior to 2020 for obvious reasons. It's basically the same as what I'm doing right now, but we had we would feature like a keynote speaker and welcome everyone to our office and actually offer them food and drinks. Way more fun, although I'm sure when things settle down, we'll continue with them. So next time, if I do another webinar, we can offer you guys a drink in our office and actually shake hands, but I'd rather hug. Christmas cards. So I showed you a couple of Christmas cards before, super traditional ones. We literally just send those Christmas cards to clients, potential clients, staff. In this year, 2018, we actually decided to do something different. We didn't want to just do a card. So we thought, why don't we do chocolate labels? So what we did was basically we designed chocolate labels. We actually did one for white chocolate, milk chocolate, and dark chocolate. We brand them, and it was a hit. All our clients came to us. They loved it. They appreciate it so much rather than just sending a card. They love the idea, super creative. So it's something that you'll see as we go, but we've kind of kept the, let's say, the Christmas card idea non-traditional. So now we have fun with it and we make different things rather than, just sending you guys an envelope. Another thing that you will notice is once we jumped into 2019, and I segmented it 2019 and 2021, is we took the communications out. we actually thought we don't need it. People know us, they know who we are, they know what we do. We are being clear on our messaging, so we kind of took it out. And here, this was a point where we decided to completely redesign the website. Before it wasn't a redesign, it was more of a refresh. In this case, we wanted to redesign it, and we actually went. It was a bit risky, but we actually just added our icon here, and we kind of tested it and see how people responded. And so far, so good. It's been really good. I mean, our URL is anstice.ca. You still see the full name. They already know us. Even on our email signatures, our emails, they end on at anstice.ca. So we thought, why don't simplify the whole brand visually and just clean it up and take all the noise around it and just focus on, again, the meat, which is our content on the services that we offer. So we simplified it. You know, we're using a lot of kind of solid colors now. And my favorite part of this brand is the content creation. So every single asset that we're putting out there, we are creating, and we're making it our own. And that to me means different. We are being different. We are not copying anyone. When you see kind of like that surrealistic Salvador Dali inspired asset, you'll probably think of us if you know us. So that's the whole point. We started creating our own visuals, and we've received really positive feedback. People actually, I know people that are actually waiting for the next one, at least in our social feed. We're, you know, kind of populating that content through and sharing it with you guys. And some people, sometimes they text me directly and say, Leo, what's the next one going to be? Or actually, I even get people sending me ideas as well, which is, I'm open for it because sometimes I'm just dry. But again, kind of simplifying it. Content creation is a must, and just in order to stand out, we also decided to add a secondary font to our library. And the reason why is, so we selected a handwritten font, and the reason why we selected this was because we wanted to highlight certain words, keywords, important words, that even if you're just scanning through our content, you could actually get a hint of what we're talking about. So that's strategically, that's really why we added this asset to our brand. Of course, our brand is mobile. That's, I mean, nowadays this is priority basically. Funny thing is, for Christmas, so last year we did the chocolate labels, 2018. In 2019, we sent wine. So we designed wine labels, and we call it creative use. And we design the labels, and we send them throughout. We send them to our clients, our staff, potential clients. Who doesn't love wine? Well, I mean, I do love wine. Everyone was super, super grateful for it, and they loved the idea. And again, that attitude that kind of offered the whole experience of the wine. So like I chatted before, we jumped from stock imagery to custom images. And I'm not sure if we have any clients here listening to me, but they will know I try always to move away from stock for all the reasons that we already spoke about. But these are the assets that we created, and people see them and they think of Anstice without even seeing our logo or our name. So that's ultimately what we want. We want everything that we put out there to communicate this is us, and just be recognizable that way, basically. And we know that now that we've received such good feedback that we want to actually put effort behind those. And that's the reason why we're actually starting to create our own. We know we have really good basically comments about it. Another thing that I love, which I'm obsessed, is our ACAST, our podcast. I'm not sure if Mark Binkley's here, but he's a genius, and he's the host for our ACAST. Best mentor I've ever had. Mark, I'm not sure if you're here. Good thing you're muted. Otherwise, I want to say that. But ACAST, amazing. It's like if you want to enrich yourself with content and knowledge about marketing, go to our ACAST, download it, and listen to it. I just drive and I just listen to them, and they're amazing. I've just learned so much about them from them, which again kind of makes us distinct. We, people, they know we're a source of information and of thought leadership content that we're putting out there. So that's, one of our differentiators. However, we also know, I consider that being fun, but we also know how to party. And we actually, we did a party in 2019, end of 2019, and called House of Anstice. Quite different, but still you can even see that attitude coming through. Like it's completely on brand. We wanted to have fun. We wanted to throw a party just to be grateful for our clients, the people that work for us, our friends. So super fun and completely on brand. I wish we could do one after post-COVID, hopefully. Now we jump into one of my favorite things, and I think the part where I'm the most proud of our brand, which is our social and our content. So you can actually see here, and this is just a sneak peek of our content creation. And we are being very visual with it. We are creating kind of those surrealistic style assets that represents us, but we're putting a lot of knowledge out there. We decided to be generous with what we know and what we learned from our clients, our processes, our case studies, and we wanted to be generous with them, and we started sharing them. So far, amazing feedback. And if you don't follow us, go ahead and follow us, and you'll honestly just enrich yourself with industry related content, which is amazing. And you can also see here, we chatted at the beginning of the webinar about commitment. You can actually notice here that we are committed to it. We are being confident with it. We received good comments about it. People are recognizing us. And that's one of the huge parts of a brand. You need to commit to it. Share that content, share that brand for a while, and make it organic. If you see that you can change it, that you can improve it, do so, but commit to it. Don't, some clients, they come to me always, Leo, let's refresh. Leo, it's time to refresh our brand. And I'm like, why? Why do you need to refresh? You have a good thing going on. You have a threat throughout. So just because the fact that you want to change doesn't mean that you have to or that you should, right? And it might just be small tweaks here and there of your brand to adapt to the new era or the current events in the world, like obviously COVID. But a commitment is a huge part of a brand success. And you can actually see here, that what we committed to. So again, going back to our templates, our presentation decks, to me, this is really, really important. Again, this is a relationship with our clients. So I pay close attention to not just the content of our presentations, but our brand, our consistency, our formatting. They need to be impeccable. You actually start seeing here that a lot of our insights, this is just a template that I created that actually made our lives easier. Now, every time we do a presentation, we have a template to work from, and we kind of fill it in and kind of tailor it to the client. But we use this as a foundation. But you actually start seeing here how a lot of the data and insights that we wanted to communicate, we're doing it in a visual way. And that's why I love incorporating charts into it, even our timelines. We try to make it digestible for the person who's reading them and approving them. So, you know, very, very visual about it. Even here, like the customer decision journey as well, like we made it our own, and we branded it, and we kind of simplified it so we can communicate that process with the clients. So very, very visual. And this, I added this one here because it's actually a photo of our office. If you haven't been, you're super welcome to come. I can tour you around. One of my favorite spaces. I'm super inspired every time I'm there. And then last but not least, how are we doing on time? Quickly here, 38 minutes. It's again our Christmas card. So for 2020, we actually decided not, again, to keep it fresh, do something different. And of course, 2020 was so eventful that we decided to do a newspaper. And we asked everyone from the staff, every one of our coworkers, to write a column about their experience and their feelings, emotions during 2020. So, and also not only their emotions, but their relationship with the client, what changed, how we adapted. I've learned that the only thing that we have certainty of in this world is change. You know, we need to be willing to change. So we wanted to communicate that, and we did that throughout this newspaper. We have done some print ads as well. So I mentioned the fact that we repurpose assets. Again, this is one of our collages that we created, and we're repurposing it for print ad. We wanted, of course, to mention our partners. We work with several partners throughout the years that help us do great work, and we wanted to give them credit as well. And something amazing that happened as well in 2020 is that we did a COVID research. We wanted to hear from the audience what changed, a lot of it changed, but what's going to prevail? What are those changes that are going to prevail and that we're going to keep seeing as we go through, even if we win the war with this, with COVID, basically. So super amazing insights that we got there as well. So yeah, I mean, that's about it. I know I've talked a lot, and I feel weird because you guys can talk. Wondering if you have any questions. But again, this is a tool that we love to offer our clients, and that really helps us kind of zoom in and zoom out on their actual brand landscape. And it just ultimately helps us make decisions and view what's coming. So yeah, that's about it. Do you guys have any questions? Let's see. I see Priya. Oh, okay. Well, I'm just gonna stop sharing here. I think I can see, I don't know if I can see people actually who's here or not, participants. Okay, I see Christopher, Mark, Juan. Amazing. Well, I hope this was helpful for you guys. And oh, Crystal's here. Sorry, I'm just reading, going through. And okay, Mark has a question. What do you do with this after presenting to clients? Amazing question. So like I mentioned before, and right at the beginning of the presentation, I consider this an organic file, an organic document, an organic landscape that's always growing as we go. As your brand develops, it's always growing. So it is a document that you can always revisit, and it will help you make those decisions, those visual decisions or messaging decisions from a brand standpoint, a voice standpoint, and use it as a tool. It could be a really great contribution to your brand guidelines. I think it actually should be part of your brand guidelines, and always revisit it. Just if you're, hesitant about putting an asset out there because you're not sure if it's on brand, if it's the right tone, if it's the right imagery, go visit your brand audit, put it against it, and see if it actually fits. if it doesn't fit, go back to it, revisit it, and try to find the right voice of it. But I actually think it's a document that clients can actually print and always have full sight of their brand. And just keep, as your brand evolves, keep adding to it. That's all I can say. I mean, it's a never-ending document. You can always grow, and it should actually be hand in hand with the evolution of your document. So yeah. Anyone else? How often everybody thinking? Sorry, I'm just going through the. Okay, I think that's it. Mark, did I answer your question? Hopefully. Okay, well, I think we are pretty much done. 43 minutes, so not too bad. Hopefully I didn't take too much of your lunch time. And thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you soon. We'll send you guys the recording session if you want to, so please reach out. My email is leoperez@anstice.ca. So if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to send me a line, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much. Bye.